Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something pretty much everyone loves the sound of, scoring, a really fantastic deal. Especially when in gaming, we've all done it, right? Scrolled forever looking for that game key, maybe some software, even a gift card, hoping to get it way cheaper than usual. It's like finding digital gold, that thrill. But here's the thing we always wonder. Is that amazing deal, like always as good as it looks on the surface? So our mission today, we want to cut through some of the confusion around these online gaming stores, help you figure out how to navigate it all. We're zooming in on one platform in particular, Gameseal. And we're doing that by looking at a really interesting review from the YouTube channel Mateo Guide. It's called Gameseal Review 2025, Scam or Legit. Really get straight to the point. By the end of this, we want you to have a clearer picture of Gameseal, what it does well, maybe where the rough edges are, so you can decide if jumping into that particular adventure, as the review calls it, is right for your next game purchase. Okay, let's dig in. All right, so first impressions. Gameseal seems to immediately catch your eye if you're looking for value, which, let's be honest, most gamers are. The Mateo Guide review points out a few things straight away, like the fact it's been quietly around since 2016. In a market where sites pop up and disappear, constantly being around for, almost a decade? That seems pretty significant, doesn't it? What does that kind of track record actually tell us?
That's a really good point to start with because, yeah, this whole online key market can be, well, pretty volatile. Longevity like that since 2016 is actually a pretty strong, if quiet, sign of credibility. You see a lot of smaller outfits, maybe less scrupulous ones, they spring up, make some quick sales, and vanish. Gameseal sticking around suggests they've actually built a sustainable business. They've ridden out market shifts, probably got a regular customer base. It implies they're not just some fly-by-night thing, and that alone can make you feel a bit better before hitting buy. It suggests some kind of real setup behind the scenes.
Okay, that makes sense. Stability accounts for a lot online. But it's not just how long they've been around, it's also the sheer size of what they offer. The review mentions over 70,000 items. 70,000. And it's not just games, right? It's subscriptions, gift cards, software too. Plus, it covers basically all the bases: PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo. For a gamer, that sounds incredibly convenient, like a potential one-stop shop. But are there downsides to managing such a massive, diverse stock? Any hidden complexities there?
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it? On the one hand, yes, that huge selection is a massive draw. It makes them look comprehensive, like they have everything you could possibly need across all your platforms. Super convenient, means you don't have to shop around on 5 different sites. But on the other hand, managing, 70,000 plus digital items, especially keys coming from who knows where globally, that's a huge logistical challenge. It opens the door to complexities like, are all the keys valid? What about region locks? Can they keep everything in stock consistently? You need really solid systems and good supplier relationships for that. And if any part of that isn't perfect, well, that's probably where some of those quirks the review mentions might creep in.
Right, the quirks. We'll definitely get to those. But first, the prices. We can't ignore the prices. The review says deals can go as high as 90% off. 90%. I mean, that figure alone makes anyone stop scrolling, game or not. And then they pair that with the promise that delivery is usually instant. So it sounds like this amazing value, and you get it right away. Almost sounds, dare I say, too good to be true sometimes. How powerful are those two things, the deep discount and the instant delivery, in grabbing attention in this crowded market?
Oh, they're probably the two most powerful hooks you can have in the digital space, easily. The massive discount hits that core desire for a bargain, right? That feeling you're getting one over, getting amazing value compared to the full price. Especially for games, 90% off feels like a huge win. And then the instant delivery, that feeds our need for, well, instant gratification. We live online, we expect things now. Waiting feels outdated, especially for something digital. You buy a game key, you want to redeem it and start downloading immediately. So promising that instant delivery just smooths out the whole process, makes the purchase feel even better, put them together huge savings. Get it now, and it's an incredibly strong, almost irresistible reason to choose them over, say, an official store selling at full price.
Yeah, you can really see the appeal. It sounds like they're ticking all the right boxes for bargain-hunting gamers. But, okay, beyond just those super tempting deals, the Mateo Guide review also mentions how Gameseal seems to be trying to build trust on, like, a deeper level.
Yeah.
What stood out to you there in terms of them trying to show they're legit in this sometimes murky online world?
Well, the review pulls out a few things that, taken together, build a pretty convincing case for reliability. First off, it mentions their official registration, and the reviewer notes, quite rightly, that this adds a bit of credibility.
Yeah.
I mean, in a space where some sellers can hide behind anonymity, knowing there's an actual registered company involved, that's basic, but it's fundamental. It tells you there's someone accountable, someone traceable. It's not just some random website. It suggests they're serious and in it for the long haul.
Okay, so it's not just flashy deals, it's showing their proper business.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it goes beyond just the legal stuff, too. The review talks about them having an active presence on social media, connecting with people, keeping things feeling alive and current, as they put it. How important is that kind of community engagement, being active on socials, for building trust these days?
Oh, it's incredibly important, hugely significant, really. Being active on social media does a few key things for trust. It shows transparency, right? There's a public place for people to interact, leave feedback, ask questions. We all know people check Twitter or Facebook if they have an issue or just want to see what others are saying. So being present and engaged shows they're listening, they're responding, they're not just hiding. It also kind of humanizes the brand, makes it feel less like some faceless corporation and more like they're part of the gaming scene. That builds a connection, shows they care about their reputation and their users. It's vital for long-term credibility in today's world.
And then there's this other detail the review mentions about their setup being pretty professional, too. Specifically, having separate email contacts for support, legal questions, and business inquiries. It might sound like a small thing, but does that kind of structure signal something more about how they operate?
Absolutely, it does. That kind of detail speaks volumes, actually. It suggests organizational maturity. Think about it. In a really small or maybe less organized setup, you might just have one generic contact us email for everything, right? Which can become a total black hole. Having dedicated contacts for support, for legal stuff, for business means they've likely got different departments or at least clear processes. There's structure. It implies that if you do have a problem, whether it's a tech issue with a key, a legal question, whatever, if there's a specific channel designed to handle it, the professionalism suggests they're prepared for different scenarios and have systems to manage them, which definitely boosts your confidence that they can actually help if something goes wrong.
Okay, so adding it all up, the history, the registration, the social media, the professional contacts, it seems like Gameseal presents a pretty solid, credible front. But, and there's often a but, isn't there? As we get deeper, the Mateo Guide review hits this really interesting point about the actual user experiences. And these experiences sound like, well, a real mixed bag, as the review puts it. Some people seem to have no problems at all, while others run into issues. This is where things get complicated, right? What's going on with this variation in feedback?
Exactly. That mixed bag is often the defining feature of these third-party marketplaces. It's very common. On the one side, like you said, the review highlights plenty of users who praise the site for its low prices, working game keys, and smooth PayPal transactions. And that's the ideal outcome, obviously. Everything works perfectly. You get your cheap game. Everyone's happy. It shows that clearly a lot of their transactions do go through without a hitch. They are capable of delivering on the promise.
Right, that's what everyone hopes for when they click buy, this smooth sailing. But the review is also clear about the other side. It talks about these stories about delays, extra verification steps, and occasional issues with certain keys. So not always that instant delivery they aim for. And then there's this specific warning about OEM ones that can potentially be deactivated later. Okay, hold on. For listeners that might not know, what exactly are OEM keys, and why is the idea they can be deactivated later such a big deal?
Yeah. That's a really critical point and one that causes a lot of confusion. OEM means original equipment manufacturer. Basically, these are keys typically meant to be bundled with hardware like a new graphics card or pre-installed on a new PC or console. They're licensed for that specific piece of hardware. Generally, they're not usually intended to be sold separately as standalone retail products. So when you buy an OEM key from a reseller site like Gameseal, there's this inherent risk involved. The company that issued the key, maybe the game publisher or Microsoft or Sony, might eventually figure out it's being used outside the original terms of the license. And if they do, they have the right to just deactivate it, poof, your game stops working. So for the gamer, what seemed like a great deal initially could suddenly become completely worthless down the road. That bargain turns into a total loss. It's a hidden gamble.
Wow. Okay. That's crucial. And something I bet a lot of us, myself included, just wouldn't even consider when we see that low price tag. It completely changes the calculation, doesn't it? From, wow, cheap game now to, could it stop working later? No. It makes total sense now why some users have a great experience and others hit these potentially serious snags. Like you said, the keys might work fine initially. That little unpredictability you mentioned feels less intriguing now and more like, yeah, potentially quite costly. It really is like that treasure hunt analogy the review hinted at. Sometimes you get the gold, other times maybe the map is misleading, or worse, leads to a trap.
Precisely. And it's important to understand this unpredictability isn't always necessarily Gameseal being intentionally shady. It often comes down to the really complex, sometimes gray market supply chains these platforms rely on. When you're dealing with tens of thousands of keys sourced from all over the place, verifying the origin and long-term validity of every single one is frankly incredibly difficult. Things like the delays or the extra verification steps that frustrate users. Sometimes those might actually be their attempts at security trying to weed out fraud or stolen keys or verify buyers to prevent chargebacks. But from the customer's point of view, it all just adds up to an experience that can swing from fantastic to really frustrating. It creates that mixed bag reality. You just don't always know for sure what your specific purchase journey will be like. And that's the trade-off, really. You chase the deep discounts, but you accept a bit more variability, a bit more potential hassle compared to buying direct. Gamers need to be aware of that dynamic.
Okay, so we've looked at the attractive parts of Gameseal, the deals, the selection, the longevity. We've looked at how they build trust. And then we've hit this reality check of the mixed bag user experience, including those risky OEM keys. Bringing it all together then, what's the main takeaway? How should someone listening think about Gameseal if they're considering using it?
I think the Mateo Guide review sums it up really effectively in its overall assessment. It says Gameseal feels like a platform that's mostly reliable but with a few quirks. It's not painting it as perfect, nor is it calling it an outright scam. It's nuanced. And I love the phrase the review uses. Using Gameseal is a bit of an adventure every time you check it out. That captures it perfectly, I think. It acknowledges the potential reward, the excitement of finding a great deal, but it also implies the process itself might have some, unexpected twists and turns. It really is the kind of place where, as the review says, one purchase might be totally smooth, and the next might teach you something new about how digital gaming stores really operate, whether you wanted the lesson or not.
Yeah, a bit of an adventure really nails that blend of potential reward and, well, potential hassle we've been talking about. It suggests that while you can get great value, it might require a bit more from you as a consumer, maybe more patience, maybe doing a bit more checking, managing that risk. So what does this whole Gameseal situation tell us more broadly about being a smart shopper online, especially with all these third-party sellers out there?
Well, if you zoom out, Gameseal is kind of a perfect microcosm of this whole third-party digital marketplace landscape. You've got the elements that build trust and offer real value, the long history, the huge selection, the community engagement. They're doing a lot of things right, which draws people in. But then you have those smaller surprises, as you put it, the delays, the verification hoops, the tricky keys like OEMs. Those are often part of the deal when you step outside official channels. Engaging with a platform like this isn't just about saving money on one game. It's actually part of becoming a more informed digital consumer overall. It teaches you about the trade-offs. You get the big savings, yes, but sometimes you might face challenges that need patience or a better understanding of how these key markets actually function behind the scenes. Ultimately, exploring a platform like Gameseal, understanding its strengths and its quirks, helps you develop a more critical eye. It makes you better equipped to evaluate any third-party deal you come across, not just on Gameseal. It's about realizing that great value sometimes comes wrapped in layers of complexity you need to be aware of. You become a more discerning, maybe more resilient online shopper.
Absolutely. Building that digital savvy is key. Okay, so let's quickly recap our deep dive here. Gameseal. It definitely looks compelling on the surface. We're talking potentially huge discounts, a massive library of stuff, and they've been around a while, looking professional. But as we've unpacked, thanks to that Mateo Guide review, mostly reliable, seems to come with that side note of a few quirks, and maybe even that occasional adventure for the user. It's a place where grabbing a bargain might sometimes involve a bit more effort, a bit more awareness than just a simple click. And maybe this look at Gameseal points to something bigger about shopping online today, doesn't it? That amazing convenience and value we find everywhere online. It often walks hand in hand with needing to be a bit more vigilant as a consumer, understanding that things might not always be perfectly smooth. So the question for you listening right now as you think about your next digital buy is maybe this. How much is that potential saving worth to you? Is it worth navigating that occasional adventure? Where do you draw the line in balancing the bargain against the potential bumps in the road? And what does chasing these deals really tell us about how value works and what might be hidden in the online world? Definitely something to think about. We'll leave you with that until our next deep dive.